Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the Middleton Methods podcast. I'm Sam.
And I'm Brandon.
And we're opening the kimono to our life tips, business ventures, and funny stories to help you on the journey through life. So welcome. So today we have a special podcast for you guys. We're going to be talking about love since we just had Valentine's Day. And we're a little late on our podcast. So it's only natural with 2 kids and a business and entrepreneurial stuff going on over here and traveling that we would be a little late on.
10 days.
We would be a little late recording our Valentine's Day podcast.
10 days. Oh, is that how long we were gone for?
Yeah, we were gone for 10 days.
Right.
And it was a great 10 days. We had a good time. I would say so what were your takeaways from the trip?
Never travel coach with 2 kids.
Okay, so that's
Never
very
travel
bougie, but yes.
Cross country, sorry. That was a long flight with a layover.
It was a long flight, and I did that on purpose. So let me just break it down real quick.
This is the Middleton Madness.
This is the Middleton Madness because all last year I flew Brandon first class. It was like my goal last year was to give my man the gift that he worked so hard for us that I wanted to give him the gift to fly him first class all of 2016. And I accomplished that goal, except for one time that he had to go out to Vegas and he had to be there really early. And the only way to do it was to fly him on Southwest.
Details.
Nonstop. It's details, but it's truth. And Southwest sucks when you've flown first class. But for those nonstop moments, they're your flight carrier that you got to go on, right? Okay, so now here we are. And anytime I try to book us a family trip, Brandon's like, we can't do first class. That's going to be too expensive. Even though he's been living in the lap of luxury for the past year, and that's the way he's flown. So, naturally, I just want to be spoiled. I just want to fly first class too, baby. Just give me some of the goods. Oh. So I'm booking our flight to San Diego, which of course I couldn't pick the most furthest point to fly first class with the family. And the tickets were...
Yeah, we could fly first class to Miami. Why don't we do that? I mean, that's just a hop, skip, and a jump.
Yeah, okay. Because you're basically sitting in coach on a plane to Miami first class. It doesn't make a difference. They give you the crappy plane to go over there. So anyway, we're going all the way over there, and I price out the tickets, and I show him the price, and he's like, can't we do that cheaper? Of course we can. We can go coach. Well, we stalled on it way too long. Now it's last minute, and the flights are they're more than double the price to fly coach than they were first class in the first place from Tampa. And here I am going, of course, here we go. I should have just booked them in the first place. And Brandon didn't want to book them. He wanted to go coach.
I'm not going to lie. I'm a new dad, a 2-year-old and a 3-year-old. To me, I would think they still sit on your lap. I didn't know they mandatorily have to have their own plane tickets.
They do, baby. So, and here's the thing, though. In my mind, I'm thinking, okay, we can fly coach and save money, or we can be comfortable. End of story. Is there any more story to have?
That's
so we struggled with that for a few weeks, and we stalled. And I'm quick to jump on decisions, which we're gonna actually get into today, of how opposite Brandon and I are. So I'm quick to jump into a decision and take action. Brandon likes to contemplate on them and think them out a little bit further. Needless to say, the airlines don't wait for us to make those decisions, and they said, no go, now your flights are more than twice the amount of money. So I started going, crap, we're going to have to pay so much. We still have to fly coach now, of all things, and I just really wanted to fly first class, you had that luxury all year. So I started doing my research. I found out that we could go out of we could go out of Orlando, which is only an hour and 15 minutes from us. I've actually been drive, right. I've been wanting to plan. Max's birthday just passed, so we take the kids to Disney for their birthdays because we have passes. So I wanted to take Max for his birthday. We haven't gone, and it's February, and his birthday was last month. So I'm like, why don't we see if we can get better flights out of Orlando? So I looked it up, and sure enough, not only could we go to Disney, stay in a hotel, fly out to San Diego, coach, but we can also fly back first class, and it was still cheaper than the flights coach through Tampa. So we jumped on it.
Like almost $2,000 cheaper.
It was almost $2,000 cheaper.
Yeah, that's like a free staycation.
It's a free staycation, and we got a staycation, and we got to go to San Diego and enjoy San Diego while we were out there too. So of course we jumped on the opportunity and we did it. Well, I jumped on the opportunity. I told Brandon after I booked the tickets, so he couldn't convince me to just do coach anyway. Like I just booked them and was like, "Here, look at the deal I got, and you have no say in the deal." So that's what happened, and we did it, and thankfully it went over so great. Like, what a difference between flying out there and flying back too, because we were lucky enough to have extra room in our rows on the way out because we didn't have like a full flight, but it was still painful. Like the kids were like extra moody and complained more. It was a lot different of an experience when we could recline their seats on the way home.
Oh yeah, little kids. These are things you just don't think about. Little kids, they come by. Hey, headphones, $2. Cool. Headphones for $2, no big deal.
They go in the ear.
Yeah. On first class on the way back, they were like, "Hey, here's some special over the ear.
We're gonna take them back at the end of the flight."
Yeah, right.
Hint, hint. We got so excited. I started stashing. I'm such a bargain shopper. I started stashing all the headphones into my bag, and then they came around and made me take them out and give them back to them, which was really embarrassing. But yes, I did try to take them because I was like, yes, we could just take all these extra headphones, and wasn't even thinking they have the double jack that go into the thing. Whatever. I felt really stupid when I was like, here's your headphones. I was just holding them down here for you. But anyway, yeah, we really do take those things for granted, right? And like,
they had the movies, they passed out, they were great. They were great.
Yeah, really.
The flight out there was pretty tiring. It's just a long flight, period. The kids weren't
I know,
they weren't
tiring for you because every time one of the children whined or complained, he just handed them off to me. Let's not even front like you had such a tough flight.
They wanted to go to mommy when they were tired and cranky. Mm-hmm. It's not my fault they wanted to come back to me when they were ready to just take a nap. So I got 2 sleeping babies in 2 different shifts sitting next to me.
Max.
And
Max slept on me for a while, and I really enjoyed it, and I loved it, and I fell asleep.
I was just letting the kids do what they wanted to do.
Right. Okay.
But anyway, flying
extra massages for mommy because I had to do all that extra work on the airplane. That's how it goes in our house, guys. Really. It really does. It really does. I took one for the team, and now it's your turn.
Flying out was a little more challenging, but I'm very happy that we did get those 2 days in Disney. I know Max definitely enjoyed that. We all enjoyed it, but
it was. And even on the way home, like before we even flew out to San Diego, I was dreading it because I knew, like, we're going to fly first class home. This is going to be amazing. Like, not only do I have all this extra space and I can watch free movies and I can relax and kick back, if the kids let me, was the caveat, but I was pretty sure they would let me because we were in first class. But then we were going to get home and we were going to have to drive home, which kind of stunk in my mind. But Max was tired and he fell asleep, and Peyton was so asleep. It was like, she was so sweet. She like hung out for half the time, and then she fell asleep, and it was amazing. And then we got home and we just put the kids to bed, and it was Valentine's Day. So, you know, awesome. Bow, chicka, bow, wow. Just enjoyed Valentine's Day. Brandon's turning red.
All right.
Anyway, I guess that's our leeway into the next segment, which is, it's a Valentine's Day special. And we want to talk about communication, and Brandon's obviously embarrassed to talk about other things right now. So let's just switch this over to communication, which is a really big topic because many people around Valentine's Day you could easily take the easy way out and talk about sex or chocolates or date nights or whatever. But when it all is said and done, you're not going to enjoy Valentine's Day with your spouse or your partner or your loved one, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, whatever, even yourself, if you don't have good communication.
It's the foundation. I mean, it's really that simple.
It is. So we came up with the most common communication mistakes. We wanted to discuss those today with
How many
you guys.
we got? How many we got, Sam?
We got 5.
5. All right.
We have
Lucky
5.
number
So
5.
let's discuss the 5, and let's also talk about ways to kind of avoid those things. I mean, we have 16 years of experience now. We're on our 16 years of being together, and we've been married for 7. So we have a good amount of experience.
Oh, let me tell you. Working together every single day for
this
the
is
last...
sounding scary.
No. It's one thing to have 16 years of marriage and communication experience when you have 40 hours a week that you can be separate in your career plus commute and everything else. But we have not only worked in our like high school jobs basically together,
Yep.
but started every business together and pretty much worked together the whole time, which if you know, working with your own colleagues and stuff, you have to communicate constantly. So not only do we have communication that we've had to master on the personal side, but like we have stress tested the communication, I would say. Would you agree?
I would absolutely 1,000% agree with that.
Cool.
Yeah, I would. I think we're even going to talk about that more because we don't have what I would think is an easy way to say like the luxury of just escaping. Like we don't have 2 separate jobs. We don't live 2 separate lives during the day. Like we live a lot of our lives together, which to me is a luxury, but to many people would not seem like a luxury. Like it's almost like the easy hitting the easy button. Like, all right, I got to go to work. See you later. And I take off. Yeah, it's different. It's different. But when I'm looking at the situation, I'm thinking it's easier to actually do that than to face you every day and work with you every day for the last 16 years.
And turn off business and turn on wife and have to figure out where the balance is.
Where the balance
hey, I'm
is.
talking to you as...
And preface
right.
hey, I know it's in the middle of the workday, but like I'm coming to you as your wife right now. Like I need you right this second to like turn off business brain, or hey, I know you're laser focused, but, and like it's just all those things. Like we've had to figure those things out over all the years. So it's a special thing, and communication is super important. And I definitely know we're experts on this situation and the conversation because we have done it all. We have done it all. We've worked separately for a very limited time, but we have worked together for the majority of the time. We've been through working for bosses together. We've been entrepreneurs together. We've just done it all. We've worked kind of like a halfway point, like kind of working for ourselves, but working with other people together. We've done it all. So
failed together, we've succeeded together.
Absolutely.
Oh.
Well, we just have a lot of years together, period. So it's just a lot of experience of communication to kind of figure these things out and help you guys out on your journey through communication, communicating better
and
with
what's
your
funny
spouse.
is over 16 years, there really are some things that start to be patterns, right?
Of course.
You start to realize like, oh, I've made this mistake before. Let me not obviously make this mistake again when we communicate, or when we're in this situation, we're having this type of discussion, or at this time of the day, or in this certain situation, we start to figure out that kind of give and take and those patterns together. So hopefully these top 5 communication mistakes that we've realized are things that resonate with you guys and can help you in your relationship, or help you be more prepared when you enter into that new relationship or take your relationship to the next level.
Well, there's a couple of things. Like I have complete validation. Like we went to an event recently, a marriage event, and we had the validation through that process of some of these things that we're going to discuss today, if not all of them were mentioned while we were there, of just things that challenges and stuff that come up in relationships that we also know we've been through before. But more importantly, like this really is about love at the end of the day, and coming together as a unit and a team. And when you say I do, like it really is about being one with your spouse or your partner. And Brandon and I couldn't be, like we've taken the personality tests and stuff like that, the DISC tests. We are so far from opposites of what one person
that's the
is to
same
the
thing.
next. Like we
We're
literally
far from opposites.
far from opposites.
No,
we are complete opposites.
opposites.
See, like he won't even let me have my moment here.
I'm sorry.
We're complete opposites. If you look at it's all good, baby. You were correcting me because I should have been corrected. So if you look at our DISC task assessment, they have this like weird triangle thing of where they say you are on their spectrum, right? And like literally if you draw a triangle and then draw it upside down is how our assessments came out. We were complete polar opposites of each other. And when we think about that in life, like, well, I don't know, we agree so much and we're able to live life together and come to agreements all the time, but we have such opposite opinions that it is kind of fascinating to me that we can live on one accord the way we do. So if anything, like just keep that in mind when you're with your spouse or whatever, like even if you're single and you're looking to find that special someone, like it is really, really possible to find somebody, and you don't have to find somebody that agrees with you, right? It's all about finding that common ground and finding those commonalities with somebody to just, like, you just know you're each other's ride or die, and you just live by those rules, and you just go for the gold, like, every day. Like, I don't have to always agree with Brandon, but he's my man. Like, we're going to find an agreement no matter what. So that's, like, the biggest rule of it all. But we do have some common mistakes that we've found through all this love stuff that just, an experience that comes about that can cause a lot of rifts in relationships, whether we've experienced it ourselves or seen it through friends and relationships in our lives. And we just wanted to share that today. Some of these we have actually gone through ourselves. Some of them we may have gone through on less of a level, but we've seen them really heightened in other people's lives. And we're like, wow, we want to avoid that. So this is like, you know, the rule book of love is really unique to every individual couple, and you guys have to find your special like vibe, right? Like what is gonna move you guys and what's gonna help you guys communicate better. But at the end of the day, the rules and the techniques and the tips and all that stuff is really the same for everybody. You just have to find your groove within your relationship with the same things that work for everybody else. Any successful relationship uses the same things, right? Like, would you agree with that? It's not like you don't have to go far off the grid. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. There's like common things that work for all couples, and you just have to find how to tweak that and make that work in your relationship. So I want to talk to you for a minute, babe, because these things hit pretty close to home. We've experienced these things in our relationship. We've seen other people go through these challenges. Let's talk for a minute about our 5 most common communication mistakes. And the first one that I wrote down was not communicating with each other.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, obviously communication is a big thing. If you're not communicating, that's a big challenge, right? So an example of this would be not talking to one another, or even when people are fighting, one person will completely shut down. Maybe the silent treatment, like we know.
Stonewalling, I've heard it called.
Yep. We haven't actually done that much in our relationship, but we've known people that have. They literally go days without talking to each other. And although I can't go more than a few hours without feeling bad that I haven't gotten a hug or a kiss or a smile or something, because I'm needy. I need that attention from you. So I need it. Like, I'm not strong enough to go days without communication. But I guess that like is a good weakness to have, because you know, there's people that can literally go days without communicating with each other, and that could literally be detrimental to relationships to not have that kind of communication.
So I think when people don't communicate, or any time that we've had an argument and we've chosen, whether it's a few hours or in some relationships, days, whatever, what's the reason that someone would stonewall or someone would choose to give the silent treatment or not communicate? Because I think it's like, I don't know, fear, or like fear you're going to get hurt again, or not wanting to be wrong, or like having that whole right or wrong thing. Like, what is it? What is it for you? I want someone to know, hey, that's great. Try not to not communicate. But when you're in the heat of the moment and the person that you're the most passionate with, the person you trust the most, and they've upset you, and you feel like you need to stop communication, I want them to not have the answer like, hey, don't do that, because that's going to go right out the window, right? What can they hold on to know, hey, I need to work through this, or I need to make sure I am communicating?
Well, I'll be vulnerable in this situation. I mean, we've been in this situation before where I feel like there's a breakdown in communication and I just don't want to talk to you anymore in that moment in time. And it could just be like a heightened level of emotions at that point in time, or just such a different opposite opinions on the situation where we're just not coming to an agreement, or we don't want to hear each other, right? It really comes down to like not hearing each other. And when you don't hear each other, like you're just like it's headbutting, right? Like you're just fighting against each other to just have the loudest voice or whatever it may be. So
is it being right? Or like, is it one person wants to be right, or one person wants to be heard? What do you think that is?
Yes,
Both.
I think exactly. Okay. Yeah, like you have an opinion on the situation and I do too, and we both think we're 1,000% right, and in that moment we're more emotional than we are logical, and we'll do whatever it takes to get our opinion heard. Where one person at a certain point in time just goes, it's usually me. I just go, I don't really want to do this anymore. I don't want this to go any more south than it's already gone. And maybe if we just stop talking about it for a little while, we'll both kind of calm down and not have our emotions so heightened. And I think it probably comes from me more to kind of go in that direction, because you don't necessarily get emotional on a general basis. So to see you get to that point, like, I'm just aware of that, and I know you good enough to know that when you get to that point, it's like, oh, okay, he's kind of reached his, readiness to go crazy. So I just need to give him a little space before.
You telling our listeners that I go crazy?
You can, if I kept it going, but instead I just would choose to shut down at that point. But there's people that would, they could literally go days without talking, and that's not really healthy. So, like, what's a healthy amount of time for you to have conflict and then say, like, okay, like, you just go get your space and you come back with a fresh head?
For me, the lesson is, yes, don't not communicate, right? So not communicating, to me, that means giving up, quitting. Like, there's obviously a topic or a situation or something that had both sides heated and needs to be discussed, and or we both feel like we need to have our opinions heard, and for one person to say, no, I'm not willing, right? I'm not willing to communicate. I'm not willing. That's like a big red flag. Like, yeah. Don't make that mistake. But it also doesn't mean like you necessarily have to be right or wrong, right? It's more just, you have to be open to, I think that one of the tips to walk away from here is, one, don't give up. Of course, you're on the same team. She's your co-pilot, talking to the guys, obviously. You can't give up on something. It obviously meant something, or it needed to be discussed or whatever. However, on top of that, you do have to listen. Like, you have to stay in the conversation, argument, disagreement, whatever you want to call it, long enough to hear what's really being said. She may be saying, or he may be saying, this is the problem, but if you listen, you may realize, one, it's something else, and you can correct it later, or two, it's actually not really that big of a deal, and you need to choose the path of being happy versus being right. There may not be a resolution, right, for that particular argument. That particular communication, but it may just be about, all right, I heard it, I'm taking note of it, I'm not giving up on whatever this little communication piece was, and on to the next, day, right?
Yeah, and in the past where 16 years, it's a lot of time to kind of go through these motions, right? So in the past, our arguments or fights or disagreements could have been like way accelerated because we didn't want to see eye to eye, or we really wanted to fight our opinion. But over time, and just being more aware of how we communicate with each other, and just knowing that there is a resolution out there, like sometimes it's just about like, okay, it's as easy as saying like, hey, I just need 30 minutes. Just give me 30 minutes. Like I'm being a little more, and you take the blame, right? It's almost like that saying like, kill them with kindness, right? Like if I can feel that maybe like tension is there, I'll just say to you, I just need 30 minutes. Like I just need to cool off. I need to think about what I'm thinking about. I need to come back with a fresh brain. And you'll just be like, okay. And you got it now. Well, we had to work to that point, obviously. It's not always that easy to do it. But now, like as you're working with your partner and stuff, you can easily go from, an all-out brawl to finding those commonalities, or just recognizing those things with each other and being able to come back and saying, okay, let me just go take 20 minutes to just cool off for a minute because I'm being too emotional about the situation. And Brandon and I are big believers in, like, we love each other so wholeheartedly, and at the same time we do treat our relationship a little bit like we treat our business. Like there is a system and a flow and an SOP that we like to follow, and it's not always perfect because our relationship is really emotional. So that's the way that it could go the most, like one way or the other on the scale of like craziness or evenness. But at the end of the day, there is a common path that we like to take when we hit challenges to avoid these obstacles coming up often and often, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So with that, there's another challenge that comes up, another common mistake that comes up, which is not meeting each other's needs, which is like a huge one. Some people call it core values. Brandon likes to call it the non-negotiables in our relationship. I just like to call it not meeting his needs, or him not meeting my needs. But there are certain things that they're completely non-negotiable in our book. Like we have to have those things in our household to know that each other are being satisfied, and it doesn't have to be the same thing, which is like the beauty of it, right? Like we should have the same core values. Ultimately, we should believe in the same things, whether it's God or work or family, like those main politics, like those main subjects that come up. We should have our main thoughts and opinions on how those things should be. If we don't have similarities on them, we're probably going to argue quite a bit that we don't ever agree on those things. But if we have the same 30,000 foot view, we can have a difference of opinions on a more granular vision or whatever, right? Like you have a different, we'll just throw it out there. Like when we were talking about this podcast and the different examples you were throwing out, just the example of sex and the amount of sex you need versus I need, or love I need versus you need.
And what that means to each person. And
yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, look, he's going to get all shy now. Okay, so his exact quote was...
She just passed the rock.
If Sam said, I never wanted to have sex, or I never wanted to take showers together, or I never wanted you to see me naked, that would be a non-negotiable. So I'm just going to throw it out there because he's being really shy right now.
I'm just a visual person. I appreciate fine things in nature.
And at first I was like, oh, that's really awkward. We're going to talk about that on the podcast. But it's really true. Like, those things are really important to Brandon. And I mean, I'm not holding back or anything, but I would say oh, look at it. I wish you could see his face right now. He's getting all what is she going to say? So his sexual thirst may be a little bit more than mine, but it's not far off from each other. So to know that, like, those things are important to him, but in the same way, like, I don't want to feel unattractive on an emotional side.
The non-sexual physical
Yeah,
attention.
I have those non-sexual physical attention. So like I'm all about sex and all the stuff that comes with it. I'm for it. I'm for that, especially because it makes you happy, right? So those things make me happy because they make you happy. But sex isn't as important to me as the non-sexual physical attention. So the way you make me feel,
it's more mental maybe, or more emotional.
Yeah, like the things you say to me, the way that you make me feel, like those things result in sex, right? Like to you, it's like sex. To me, it's you make me feel good. I want to have sex.
Don't oversimplify it. It's not that simple.
I think it's that simple.
No, guys.
It's not that simple?
Guys are soft too. Guys
have man parts, and they think very simply on that subject.
More simply, but no, it's not that simple. That is a connection. That is a connection. For sure, it's a different kind of connection.
I think you have that connection to me, so it makes it like that much more of a drive, and I get that, and that makes it even sexier to me. But
no, it's definitely
you're still
different.
A dude,
otherwise, it would be guys would just like it would be very logical. Guys would just go out and they would just pay for sex, and they would just be like,
"Oh my god, really?"
Yeah, no, it's not.
He just said that.
Not like that.
Right, but anyway, now you're gonna make me get all shy. Paying for sex. But really, the reality is, like, a guy has a different needs than a woman, right? Like, and it could be different in every relationship, but in our relationship, like, yours is a little bit more tilted on the sexual side, mine's a little bit more tilted on the emotional side. But it all comes together when we're on the same accord. It results in the same thing, which is like you get a little more emotional and I get a little more sexual, right? So those things like mold together and form a good relationship, and not meeting each other's needs is where there's a problem that needs to be fixed. And those are like, it's kind of weird, like we talk about it so shy, but that's like a really important part of our relationship, and we're very clear on it. Like, I would never deny you of things that you need, whether it's sexual or emotional or whatever. Like, those things are really important in a relationship. And although we may be shy to talk about it with however many podcast listeners are listening, like, we're not shy about that in our house. Like, we will talk about those things. And we don't, it's just a thing in our house. Like, I'm not going to like divulge how often we do it and stuff like that, but it's not like it's not a rarity in our house, that's for sure. Like, that's there. Like, your need for that is there. It's a little like, my need for those emotional things are there, and we make sure to satisfy
Let's not pretend
each
like
other.
you don't have those needs too. For a second, I think we're kind of brushing over the fact that you're just acting like you just need to have this whole emotional needs met, and there's no other part to that. So
okay, I got you.
Right.
Yes, women have needs sexually too, and they're definitely there. But I would say that
that's the easy one, right? That's the easy one I think all of our listeners can certainly relate to. However,
this is like the most awkward sounding conversation.
No.
But the reality is it's sex, and people need it.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's a big one.
And people also want to feel good. And like for a woman, like I want to feel good in order to have sex, right? And when I feel good and we have sex, it's like amazing. More so than just having sex. Mm-hmm. So I think anybody can relate to that, as awkward as this conversation is getting.
But needs may be also outside of sex, right? That's like that's the easiest, most primal one to go to. So we had to address it. But needs can be other things as well, right? You may have certain financial needs. You may have certain security needs. You may have, right? Like, no, seriously. Like, you may want to know, look.
It's just funny. You're breaking it down.
I have a family, and I need to make sure that my family, like, I don't feel like we have our needs met unless we have health insurance. Like, we waited forever to get health insurance, right? Once the kids came along, that was a non-negotiable, right? But we went without health insurance. We just stayed healthy, and right?
Throughout all these years, there's a common ground.
Financial needs.
Financial, sexual, emotional, there's a common ground. When you are producing at a level that that like you're producing at a level and you have the right mindset and you're just producing, right? On a level that for us is important to us. And then me on our side and our, like the responsibilities that I say I'm going to take hold on a relationship, I'm producing at that level and then some as well. And whether it be like paying the bills or taking care of the children or cooking us meals every day or keeping us healthy or encouraging us to work out or helping in the business, like I have those side of the things on our relationship that we've agreed to take the responsibilities for. And when I'm upholding to those things, I'm meeting your needs, I'm meeting our needs. It is sexy on all levels. Like when you are meeting all the needs to the relationship that we've agreed are important to us. So everybody's got to figure that out for themselves, right? Like not everybody works together, so they're going to have differences of their needs for those. Not everybody spends as much time together as we do, but at the end of the day, there's still, you know, marriages and kids and jobs and things and bills and all this stuff that needs to be juggled. And when all those rules and responsibilities are set aside and everybody's got their roles, right? And when everybody's fulfilling those roles, not only at 100%, but at 120, like that's a sexy quality. And that is meeting your needs to the max. And like I can say from a woman's point of view, like we have our things of what I expect and what we've talked about that you would fulfill on in our relationship. And when you do those things, it doesn't matter. Like there may be a season where like you're totally 120 in one part of the things that you're supposed to fill on, and maybe you're like 80% on other things like health or something, but you're still like the most incredibly sexy guy to me because you're just going hard, right? Like you're like totally fulfilling on those needs and stuff that you said you would fulfill on. And that's an extremely attractive quality to have in you that I value. So it's very easy for me to counteract or reciprocate or follow in your footsteps when you are leading in that role. And it may be the opposite. Like there may be times where you're not leading as much and I need to lead on my responsibilities more. You know, like maybe you just need a little break or a brain break or whatever it may be, and you're not like totally going 120 on your stuff. And then like I gotta realize like, okay, this is my time to take a lead so that you can also see that sexiness on your side. But I mean, can you like deny that it's not a hot...
No, I'm not gonna be able to get out of this room, put my headphones back on with my head being so big after all those compliments. So.
Well, you should never wear your headphones. You wear them
So
too much. That should be
2.
mistake number 3 is wearing too many headphones around the house and being on your phone all the time. But it's not. It's actually not spending enough time together, which kind of goes with that stuff. But we'll move on.
Mistake number 3. So just quick recap. Mistake number 2 is not meeting each other's needs. Is it... So you should probably, outline what those things are. You should probably talk about them. And it's not as simple, it hasn't been for us anyway, as simple as, all right, I'm going to write down this top 10 list and you're going to write down your top 10 list and we're going to compare and we're going to have this like rule book that we carry around in our pocket. It's not at all like that, right?
No,
it's a give and take.
It's different.
It's an experience. It like takes that, you know, give and take that.
And you have to just be open-minded, right? Because there's a difference. Like we've sat down to do this exercise before, and Brandon will immediately be like, I need this amount of time to work, and I need to outline when I need to start, when I need to shut off, how many times a week we're gonna have sex, and like it's like very like systematic, and he's a very systematic person, so he wants to, and I'm like kind of like.
It would be nice, but that's not life. Life is dynamic.
I'm
right?
more
life changes every
and
single
hippie,
day.
and I'm like, well, I just kind of want to like feel more in the
organic.
moment, and
yeah. I'm embracing more of the organic, dynamic, like things. Just, I mean, having with the children have been the biggest blessing for that. Like, you don't know how to plan and systematize anything until
when you have 2 toddlers.
You see 2 toddlers, and that just all goes out the window completely. And crazy and beautiful at the same time.
So let's talk about not spending enough time together, because that's huge on, like, how do you meet each other's needs when you don't even spend enough time together? That's a big one. We were recently at a conference, and one of the biggest things that we heard this subject come up multiple times, where they're either like just not considering each other or not spending enough time together, but instead they were like living separate lives. For example, one guy stood up and he talked about how he goes out to go golfing, and he just like pushes the responsibility on his wife to watch the kids. And it wasn't until he was in that moment that he started thinking like, oh man, I schedule these golfing trips or these golfing outings, and I just assume that my wife is going to take care of the kids, and I leave the house and I go golfing and I have all this me time. And I've never once thought like, does she need to go get her hair done? Does she need to go to the store without the kids? Does she need to go do anything without the kids? And just like assumed that she would take care of the kids. So not only is that like not meeting each other's needs, right? Because I do think me time is part of seeing each other's needs, but also not spending enough time together. Like all that time that he spent.
That's a need that someone might have. Like I want to have a certain amount of time with
I'm totally greedy
right?
with that. I want to spend like every waking minute of every day with you. I don't ever get, well, I won't say ever, but I rarely ever get sick of you. It's really weird and people don't understand it. And I don't, quite frankly, most days, of why I want to be around you so much, but you're just amazing energy to be around. So
wow. I am not going to be able to get out of this room.
This is the Valentine's Day podcast, so I guess it is my time to blow your head up.
I'm feeling very obligated to return the compliments, Sam.
I take payment in massages, so just remember that. But anyway, not spending enough time together is like a big thing. Like, you know, when you're giving your time to everyone else, friends and work and family and church and errands and whatever it is, like you're giving all that time to other people and you're not necessarily giving it to your spouse. And what kind of effect does that have on your relationship? Well, you can have a major breakdown in your communication when you're not spending time together. We've had times where we've been really busy, like in work or something, right? And we've been so consumed in a season. Like, let's talk about like pre-babies.
Yeah.
And we've been so consumed in like work and travel, and we've been just, even after babies, like post babies, we've been so busy with business and babies and stuff where it's like, holy cow, like we barely have time for each other. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like,
oh wow, we're married.
Have to get back to.
Yeah, I totally forgot for a minute that we had a marriage here going on too, that we had to attend to. And although that happens less and less over the years, and as the kids get older, that gets a lot easier. But there's those challenges all the time where you go through seasons where that can almost seem like impossible to remember that you have a significant other, right? So,
no, I feel it for sure. Like if I have had like 2 business trips in a month, it's like that naturally keeps us from communicating in the way that we do more often. So it's almost like, why do I feel like not only do we have more things to get done, both on the business and personal, family, home side?
I'm glad you're aware of that, because throughout the years, that's probably been a driving stake to why you've made changes in our business that we've made to be more active in our personal life always, when it seems like business could be taking over those responsibilities in a house or in our marriage or whatever. But that's not always the luxury that everybody else feels or has the luxury to take action on. And there have been times where I have felt in the past where things are like super overwhelming and we don't have an option but to work on our business, right? Like think of like 7-8 years ago. Like we were really grinding for
survival mode, baby.
We were in survival mode, and there isn't much option to gallivant and spend time as a couple. Like it was really like grinding to get clients and grinding to make a name and grinding to build our business. And those things can be really stressful, really frustrating. But at the end of the day, if somebody had told us all those years ago, remember to just take some time out for each other. Like we did, but I don't feel like we did it enough or as like sanely as we should have. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Like we did it kind of frantically. We're like, oh, it's been like a few weeks. We really should go out and do something with each other.
Work hard, play hard.
Right. It would, no. It was like work hard. Let's play a little. Okay.
Play soft.
Okay, let's go take an hour to just like make pretend we're having some fun and then we'll get back to work. So, taking that time to spend with each other is like really important. We talked about date nights on a previous podcast, and we'll continue to talk about like how to bring that into the relationship, but we're really good at that. I mean, I think we have more work than we have play, but
which is fine. It's the vehicle that it's the golden goose, right? It's the goose that lays the golden eggs. How can you not be a little slanted towards the thing that drives everything in like your decision?
But that's what makes it a little like sickly, I guess, on my part, because when you're talking about meeting each other's needs, like I know that you growing our company and having that like desire to produce and create a legacy for us and our family name and for our children, like that's really important to you, and being able to help you accomplish those things is very attractive to me. So when we're spending time together, it doesn't always have to be about talking about the next vacation, or like I like to dream, and I like to dream, and you entertain me on that sometimes. But for the most part, we're probably like 70-30 on that, right? Like
in this season.
On most seasons, we're 70 lately, producing and 30. But we've always been like that.
This is our time to earn, baby.
Right. And I'll be 70, 80, time. 90 producing, and 10, 20, 30 dreaming until we're 40, 50.
40, 50, 60.
When we can swap that percentage around. But fortunately,
so far the math is adding up.
Unfortunately for you, even though we're complete opposites, like we communicate that with each other and we realize those needs, and I'm okay with that, and it excites me and it gets me excited, and spending that time together knowing that like we're talking about things that you enjoy about is very enjoyable to me. So that's I don't know how to like round that up there, but it's just an important thing to me. I'll just make your head a little bigger. How about that?
Wait, do you have something else to say?
No, okay. I'm done.
I would like to just take a quick step back and say we've covered 3 top mistakes now that we've made. 1, not communicating with each other. 2, not meeting each other's needs. And 3, not spending enough time together. Now, obviously, that last one is something that...
There's 2 more.
Like, no, the last one in those 3.
Oh.
Are
gotcha.
Like...
Sorry.
One spouse may need more time than the other, and that whole formula. But I would like to just sum up number 2 and 3: not meeting each other's needs and not spending enough time together. I really think those 2, because we've gone, I think, 45 minutes with these 3, and we still have 2 more to get to. So communicate. Just communicate with your teammate. Like, you cannot not communicate with your teammate, with your co-pilot. And number 2 and 3 can be summed up with not being selfish. Like, if you're selfless, or you are more aware of your spouse's needs, or your spouse's, and one of those needs may be a certain amount of time together, right? That just, I know you'll agree with me, most couples that we talk to, first of all, unfortunately, we need to continue to change our environment, because most couples that we talk to do have had challenges. Most couples that we talk to have had issues, almost, and we'll get to this on number 4, like compare right? They compare and they think that things are a certain way for certain people. They are not thinking they're not thinking about the other person. You know, they almost have like in their own mind the way things, quote, as a word I hate the most, should be and shouldn't be, but they're not thinking about the other person. They're thinking about themselves the whole time. Like, that's the root of that issue is, what do I want? What am I not getting? What needs are not being met by me? And that's what leads to poor communication. That's what leads to not meeting each other's needs, because you're only thinking about your own needs. That's what leads to not spending enough time together because you're worried about getting to the basketball game or getting to the gym or hanging out with your boys, or, you know what I mean? Like, if I could just take those number 2 and number 3 mistakes and put it into don't be so selfish, I'm just going to leave it at that.
And it's easy to get selfish when you are doing those things over and over.
True.
So when you're not communicating with your spouse often enough, the default is to be selfish. Why me? Why not me? Why am I not getting this? Why is this not happening to me? Why? And then you're a big old baby, a big old complaining baby. And you should just not be a big old complaining baby. So let's move on from that. Okay.
All right. 2 more and we got some more.
We got number 4. Let's liven this up a little, Brandon. You just like took that deep for a minute. I shed a little tear. Just kidding. Okay. Comparing yourself to others. Oh my gosh. What a big mistake in communication. Oh my goodness.
Communicating with yourself. Really?
Like this one drives me nuts. Nuts. Like, seriously. We don't do this in our relationship because it drives me that nuts that you would seriously see a side of Sam that like you just don't want to see. So when people have done this, they've been like, oh, you know, like I wish my girlfriend could be more like you when she blah, 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 blah. Or girlfriends have said, I wish my man would be more like Brandon when he blah, 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 blah. Can I tell you how crazy those statements make me? I literally want to punch people in their face.
Oh my goodness.
Literally. Like, literally. I'm really sorry. That's like a real
We're going to have to put the little explicit on this one. You're just going to get angry. This is a family show, Sam.
Please don't show up at my door, police, and come to arrest me. I've really never punched anybody in the face for this, but it really makes me want to hit people. Like, that's the most frustrating thing when people compare themselves to other relationships. Like, you are in your relationship. Take responsibility for what you are. Take responsibility for what you are not. Take responsibility for what your girlfriend or boyfriend is or is not. Like, that is a big freaking deal. When you are only comparing yourselves to other people, when you are not taking responsibility for your own actions, your own insecurities, your own everything. Ugh, it drives me nuts. That's a big one for me.
Can you drop a lavalier mic? Just drop the lavalier.
Thanks. Now my head's growing so big I won't fit out the door. This really is the Valentine's Day special. Do you feel love?
All right. People have already stopped listening now.
Oh my gosh, stop it. No, they're still listening because this is like a train wreck. So anyway, comparing yourself to others it's such a bad thing. It really
you've done it. We've all done it. Let's be real. We did it early. I know I did it early on in relationships.
Way early on.
And it could be celebrities, right? It doesn't even have to be like people you know. It could be like,
a celebrity. Have you compared me to a celebrity?
Sam, why can't you be more like Beyonce?
Yeah, right.
From what I've seen. Just saying.
Why don't you expand on that a little bit?
No, we're not. No. We're not going there. Nope.
I've actually listened to her in interviews. I think she's very unique. You would never last. But our celebrity.
Oh yeah,
What do they call that?
Sasha Fierce?
Our celebrity
you-
wife. Oh yeah,
no.
she's got this whole other side to her you don't even know about.
nothing
Our
to do
celebrity
with
wife
Sasha
swap.
Fierce.
I've said for years, if we did celebrity wife swap, it would be Jay-Z and Beyonce. But that's because they are so brilliant and business-minded. Like, I would love to pick their brains for a day. It would be amazing. Like, you would get something out of that. Legit, you would get something out of that. We're totally getting off topic here. But comparing yourselves to others is seriously a crazy, scary thing that you should not do in your relationship.
Ever, 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 ever.
I don't really think there's much, like, droning on about this one. Like, it's... You just don't do
look,
it.
Let's be real. You never know what someone else is going through and what you have, like
Here
what
he
you
goes
see.
with his nugget. This is
what
amazing.
you see.
No, this is good. It's good
thanks.
stuff.
What you see on TV is obviously not reality. Reality TV is so far from reality, right? Well, I mean, it's the same thing. Like, if you've ever dated, right, before you met your spouse, or if you're still dating, you know that person usually brings their best version of themselves first. They bring their representative. You see the best version of most people in public, and they could be complete crazy people behind closed doors. They could always leave the toilet seat up, or always, have bad money problems, or always have act
so I got a story
ridiculous
on
at
that.
home, whatever. So don't.
I got stories.
You will drive yourself crazy if you compare yourself to other people, because you actually really don't know all of what other people are going through. You don't know.
You don't know what their life
people,
is
right?
like.
Yeah,
right.
you don't. So
exactly.
And I love the quote. It's slightly related and slightly unrelated, but what other people think of you is none of your business. And I almost think like what you think of other people is it's nobody's business. Like you don't know what other people's business is, so don't stress yourself out with trying to compare yourself to other people. Like that's why we say in this podcast, take what you want and what you don't want, don't take. Like take the best of everything that's worked for us, and the stuff that you don't vibe with, or the stuff that you don't think, or like just don't even take it.
It's kind of like that viewpoint of like Stepford Wives, right? Like you see this like perfect town and these perfect people and these perfect families,
That's
but they're
what
really not
people
perfect.
looked at us for years. They're just like, oh, I wish I was so lucky to have
people
met
still
mine,
do that.
blah,
They're
blah,
like,
blah.
oh, like, really, like
we work at this thing every single day.
It's work. It's work. And what you don't want, don't take, right? Like there's work that goes on. And that's why we're being vulnerable and doing this podcast, because we actually got kind of sick of people telling us
that we're lucky.
Or we were handed things. And like people don't even realize like we've been like, Brandon hasn't, but I've been homeless. I was addicted to drugs. Like there were things going on in our lives in the past that like people don't even... You see this little blip of somebody's life and you just assume.
Which is the worst possible thing you can do.
Which is the worst possible thing you could do, because you never really know what happened. Like what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right? Like we really, really, really don't like... And social media is another big play on that. Like it's a little easier these days to have envy over other people's relationships, because you see this facade of what it's like on social media.
Yeah, you share all the good stuff. You don't share any of the crazy.
Right, and where you only had maybe like back in the day before the internet was really popular, you had maybe like your close circle. What is in your town? Maybe the top. Maybe there's 50 people that you meet. Like 50 would be a lot that you would see on a regular basis. But on social media, you have 300, 500, 2,000 friends before you max out on Facebook. And so that's a lot of relationships that you don't even really have a close connection with, but you see or on Instagram or Twitter or whatever other social media outlet, you see these glimpses into their life, but it's only what they feel like sharing. It's not like, I mean, you can go look at my Instagram and my Facebook are even really different. Like I just went crazy on my Instagram posting all these like happy memories of this trip we just had, but I mean, I guess luckily for us, I didn't catch any like pictures of Max screaming or Peyton crying or whatever, but those moments happen.
They definitely happen.
But you look at my Instagram right now and it's like, oh my gosh, these guys had the most amazing trip. And we did have an amazing trip. But I'll tell you, like, it wasn't
perfect.
Sunshine and rainbows the whole time, right? So it's just interesting the way that you can perceive your life to be to other people, but then not, like, it's just don't compare yourselves to those lives because you're not in that every day. You need to look at your own life and your own situations and, be responsible for your actions and be responsible for the things that you bring to your relationship and not compare yourselves to other people because you're not Joe Smith, right? Like, you are who you are and you need to rep that person. You need to be that person.
And you have your partner, and you need to focus on them and their needs. And
not telling those people who they should be, because
gosh, that's like the biggest blow.
I mean, I grew up...
Hey, you're cool, but so-and-so would be cooler in your shoes.
Listen, I grew up very, with people telling me what to do all the time. My parents always told me what to do. So I was a very rebellious teenager, and I don't take well to people telling me what I should and shouldn't do. So, like, that is like and Brandon could attest for that. Like, I'm the ultimate of, like, don't tell people what they should be. Like, you just focus on yourself and take responsibility for yourself. At the end of the day, like, I had to make that mind shift for myself, and that's a big one for me from coming from that kind of background to realize, like, oh, okay, like, nobody is responsible for my emotions. Nobody is responsible for my behaviors other than myself. And when it comes to my spouse, like, now I have to weigh in on their feelings as well. And that's important. Like, if I want to have a long-term, long-lasting, happy relationship with you, Brandon, I have to consider those things at all times. Like, I just can't be selfish, and I can't tell you what you should be like, right? Like, you are your own person, and I have to love and respect you for who you are, with expectations that you're going to be who I want you to be too.
And inspire me to change.
There's that balance, and I want you to be who I want you to be. So go for that right now. But the worst thing ever is the fear of the outcome of, like, voicing your opinion. I think that's the number 5th common mistake of communicate. The number 5th.
All right.
The 5th. Come on. Look, you're being judgy. And that's the exact first thing I was going to say. Scared of being judged by what you say. And look at him. He's doing it right now.
I know you can handle it.
I'm going to go in the corner and cry. No, really, like, the fear of the outcome. How hard is it to be in communication with your spouse, but you don't want to communicate because you're in fear of what the outcome could be? And that could be as little as what they may think of what you have to say to as big as, like, gosh, I have a situation with a friend where they are ready to think a little bit more outside of the box, and they know they want bigger things in their life, but the life that they live in right now is a pretty tight little bubble, and they're scared of moving out of that bubble because it's not just about them. They have children to think about, and they have a spouse to think about, and they have bosses to think about, and they have family to think about, and they're really nervous about all these relationships that might get derailed by their decisions to take a step in a direction that they want to take, right? And so the fear of the outcome could be really big for them. Could they lose their marriage? Could they lose their family? Could they lose their job? Like, could their child go on the wrong path, and they're a great student and they could be a bad student, or they're a bad student and they could be a great student, and, like, which direction do they go, and could they excel better if they live somewhere else? And there's all these things that come into play. So the fear of the outcome is the real deal.
It's just fear, period, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, being fearful is, this has just been called the selfish episode, because that goes right back to being selfish too. You're afraid of what might happen, and you can be a testament to this.
I never even really thought of that as being selfish.
We were afraid of so many things in the early, when you're in survival mode, I mean, come on, we're entrepreneurs 10 times over, and we in our earlier years were in survival mode, and we were very fearful of what could happen because we couldn't afford for things to get worse than they were. I mean, we literally have been homeless. We literally have had everything we own packed in our car twice, 3 times. I mean, like, it is, it's real. And when you are, like, if you're fearful of what could happen, you're thinking of only yourself. You're not thinking of not even just your spouse, but whatever it is that.
There's like a real easy common thing that happens in a lot of relationships that we could talk about too. I mean, money is a good one, or even like cheating. That's a good one because it's not something we've experienced.
Well, that came out of nowhere, but okay.
Well, it's an example that just popped in my head. So and it's something that I don't ever think about, which is probably like why you think it's so random. Yeah. But when you and I first started dating, 16 long years ago.
This is a good example. I know where you're going. This is a good example.
So bring yourself back. Yeah. Like when Brandon and I first started dating, there was a time in our relationship where there were multiple people trying to break us up. There were guys and there were girls, and we were in high school. I mean, it was high school. It was high school. Like, do I need to say more? But there were people that tried to break us up. And I had been cheated on in the past or had not been taken seriously as a girlfriend and was like a casual, like, dating partner or whatever in the past, even though, like, I was ready to commit to two guys that I had dated previously to Brandon that didn't necessarily want to commit to me. Well, that had kind of scarred me, right? Now I had, like, these war wounds where going into the relationship with Brandon could lead to jealousy or being over analytical about situations or what may have you about situations. So, like, the topic of cheating at the beginning of our relationship was, like, heightened because I had been cheated on, Brandon had been cheated on. Like, you first start dating somebody and you don't fully trust that person.
You don't know them.
Like, right. Like, we wanted to love each other, but we didn't know whether we could really trust each other because in the past, people that we had loved had burned us. And so that's like that's the exact fear of the outcome, right? But over time, I mean, we got over that not, oh my gosh, 13 years ago, maybe. Like, we just kind of like squashed that. It was a really, really, really long time ago, which is why it's even a weird subject to bring up now. But throughout that time, there was like even that early on, there was just a point where you just have to get over that fear of the outcome. Like, if I was going to fully commit to Brandon and want to go all in on a relationship and be a ride or dyer, like, I can't be a ride or dyer afraid that he's always going to cheat on me. And he can't be the man he wants to be for me and be that committed if he always thinks I'm going to leave him or be with another guy or some other guy is going to come take his place or whatever, right? Like, I think those are pretty generic themes, right? Mm-hmm. Like that fear that another man could come in and take his spot, or another fear that a woman's just going to come in and like shake her ass and get you. Like, those things are real things. I mean, you're a butt guy. Come on. So those things go in tenfold and can really affect a relationship, and not being scared of those things and being able to switch out of that mindset and not have that fear of the outcome really helps a relationship drive forward. And now here we are 16 years later, and we don't have that fear as much anymore. So I don't know if that was the best example to bring forward, but it's the one that kind of came to my mind the most because...
Just thinking of newer couples, I mean, that's I think our heart is certainly with those ones that are on their, like, 10th relationship or new relationships, like...
especially when we think of the dynamic of the people, or like the age group of the people that are listening to us. Like, you know, we were 17 and 19 when we first started dating.
We had all those same fears.
I'm 35 this year. That's a really scary age to even say. I'm 35 this year, and that's like getting really close to 40. And I have friends that are our age and single, and they have these fears now, and they go through these challenges with guys that they first start dating, and that's a reality. Like being scared that their significant other is going to veer off, for whether it's like sexually towards another person or emotionally towards another person. Like that's a big fear.
And the sad and scary part is that fear is what might have them leaving something good to jump to something else, and to jump to something else, and next thing you know, they are 40 and they're challenged, because it's a very different relationship. I think I don't have any experience, obviously, but I would hate to be in that dating pool, in that space where you're like, hey, I want to start a family, but I'm 40, and I would like to get married, but
and that's a great point.
I'm already set in my ways, and now we have to unlearn some stuff.
That's
Thankfully,
a really
you
good
and me
point.
got to learn a lot of things as a team together because we held true to that commitment. So I'm, no offense, but I'll pray for the older folks that are listening to this podcast. I'm really hopeful to get through to the younger people who are younger in their relationships, that are maybe thinking that, hanging out with their boys or hanging out with their girls, and they're like, you should this or you should that, or they're trying to keep up with, what their friends are doing or what they think things should be. They are hearing this and going, hey, I need to not be so selfish. It's not about me. I need to invest in my partner. I need to find my co-pilot, my teammate, and be thinking
and get committed. But it takes two. It takes two.
Absolutely.
The other person has to be just as committed, and send them to this podcast so they can listen to it too, and they can hear the same words and be just as committed. But the reality is, it's not just about within a relationship. It also has to do, there's problems within a relationship too, where people are scared of the outcome. Like, to make a change in a life, like a life change, like a job or a relationship. You may be with somebody or married to somebody, but maybe you're making a big change about something in your family, or you're letting go of your family, or you're making a job switch, or you want to move to a completely different state, and there's you have kids, there's real challenges and things that come up in people's lives where it could be easy to be judged or have differences in opinions within your relationship, and having that fear of the outcome could cause somebody to close off their communication. And for me, it's wow, you really have to be aware of that and not be scared of that. And for those people that are really fearful of the outcome, I really want to challenge them to go forward in faith, what they feel is right for them. And it is a point in time where I say, be a little selfish, expecting that when you're leading by example, the people that love you are going to naturally want to support you in those roles.
But don't have expectations.
No, you can't have expectations. No.
Like, I mean, I'm going to do this for 21 days, and then she better or he better, or...
No, you're going to do this for yourself because you made that decision to do it for yourself. And no matter what the outcome is that comes from that, you made that decision to do it for yourself because you were ready and you didn't think you had the support to do it. Because you didn't have the support to do it, you just do it on your own. And when you do it on your own, you have to be ready for the outcome regardless of what that is. Right?
Yeah.
But that's big. I have friends literally that don't take action because they're scared that their spouse isn't going to follow them in those actions, and they don't want to lose their spouse, but they're holding themselves back from making those decisions. And it's painful, and it melts my heart, and it hurts me to watch them not grow because they're afraid that their spouse isn't going to grow. And I want to be screaming to them, but I don't, because it's not my place to say it. But I want to be just take the lead and do it. And
yeah, in some ways
but
you have to be
ready
selfish,
for that.
and in other ways you don't. So you're almost, so I think you're selfish in a way to make yourself stronger for them. I love Jim Rohn.
I knew you were going to say that Jim Rohn quote.
I'll take care of me for you if you could just take care of you for me. It's really
the best one ever.
That simple. And that's not always right. It's not equal give, it's equal sacrifice. I'm pretty sure E.T. is the only one I've heard say that. It really is that. Like, you may have to give for X amount of time or X amount before you get, like, so you do kind of have to be selfish. It's the fear, in some ways it's the fear of regret over the fear of failure. Like, I would rather die knowing I gave something, right? And I mean, the biggest investment, I believe, is our marriage, is our relationships.
That's
and our
special.
relationships.
Thank you.
I would rather die knowing I gave that everything, and I don't have any regrets on what I didn't do, maybe in other areas or anything else, right? The fear of regret is so much greater. I believe, like, if you challenge yourself, the fear of regret is definitely stronger. Like, if you think about yourself on your deathbed, like, you got minutes left to live, you don't care about anything else, you will be more fearful of the things you didn't do, didn't say, didn't love, didn't give, over the fear of failing at something. Like, people are going to forget that you had 2 houses short sold. They're going to forget that you faced bankruptcy. They're going to forget that you screwed X, Y, and Z up. But
or screwed X, Y, and Z.
Whatever that
You're
is.
getting so deep, I had to, like, break it up. Okay, whatever. He's gonna
Awkward silence.
No, it's not awkward. I threw you off.
The fear of regret over the fear of failure.
I obviously needed to be a little
There's so
lighthearted.
many cliches in there. I hate to have those cliches, but they're just, they've helped us so much, so I have to share them. So.
And I'm sorry for getting wild and breaking up that silence. So sorry. Forgive me.
Hey, I'm sure somebody laughed.
I laughed. I laughed.
All right, let's round this sucker out. You want to recap us?
Yeah, so there's like 5. What we say are the 5 main communication mistakes, and those are not communicating with each other, not meeting each other's needs, not spending time together, comparing yourselves to others, and the fear of the outcome. And when you guys can overcome those things, your relationship will be more in harmony than ever before. And it's not that your life will be perfect. There's always challenges and there's always growing pains. And
that's the variety that just
it is the
spicy.
variety. That's right. I mean, the reality is you're always gonna be striving to thrive more, and there are always, you're gonna reach your goals and want more. Like, it's just for us anyway. It may not be for everybody. Some people just like to be comfortable, and I don't get it. But
no, they don't. They lie and say they want to be comfortable.
No, there's some people that just like to be comfortable. They really don't want responsibility. But for us, like, we can't stand getting too comfortable. Like, once we get too comfortable, we need to push more. And in order to do that, we got to extend our boundaries and have more obstacles to overcome. And when we hit those things, like, we do hit those challenges every single time. And when you're hitting those things every single time, they just get easier, right? It gets easier to communicate with each other. It gets easier to realize when you're spending time together. It gets easier not to the comparing yourselves to others. Like, we haven't done that in years. I mean, years. Having the fear of the outcome. We don't struggle on that as far as our relationship more than just the outcome of our decisions, what they could be. And we like maybe A, B, C, D, E, F, and G them when we probably only need to A, B, and C them. But, at least we're doing them together. And there's those things that come up, those mistakes come up all the time. And when you're able to avoid them, you will be in a more harmonious relationship.
Enough said. So listen, guys, we are not perfect. as you may have heard from the banter, but we are putting in the work to make it work. So take what you want, and what you don't want, don't take. We love you guys. We do this for you guys. Please give us your feedback, comments, questions.
5-star ratings.
And of course, we would appreciate, we don't get paid for this. We have no sponsors. You can check us out on MiddletonMethods.com. But most importantly, if you could give us your comments and a 5-star rating on iTunes or Google Play, we would appreciate it. Share this with somebody that you care about. Share this with another couple that you go on date nights with. We are all in this thing together, and we appreciate you. We love you. We will see you in the next Middleton Methods.
Mwah, mwah, mwah.
I can make the pain disappear.